Hi, so today I'm doing a review of this children's book. It's called Planting the Trees of Kenya. It's by Claire A. Nivola, and it's basically the story of Wangari Maathai. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's an African name, Kenya. And when I first started reading this, I didn't realize it was a true story. Actually, throughout the whole thing, I didn't realize it was a true story until the very end. It starts talking about, the author's note, and it just talks about in Kenya they have a green belt movement. It's the green belt movement where it's like no cost of money or anything, but like it incentivizes planting and growing trees. So they like loan people like goats, or they'll loan people beehives, and if you plant enough trees, then the beehive is gifted to you, and you could make money off of the beehive. They'll loan you a goat, and if the goat has a baby and you give that baby to another member of the Greenbelt movement, you get to keep the mother, or maybe the father, or I'm guessing the mother, or yeah, for sure the mother. So it's just this like incentivizing growing trees and planting and being independent and growing your own food and taking care of the earth. So anyway, I didn't know it was a true story or based on a true story, but it's about this little girl, and basically talks about how when she was growing up, everything was green everywhere. There were like fig trees, and she said the fig trees were like sacred. Like she wouldn't even take some of the wood that fell off the tree to take home for a fire for warmth, because they were sacred. And she said everyone kind of had their own little garden. People grew their own food, and it was beautiful. There was water, there were streams. She would go out and see the little frogs in the little rivers and streams, and little eggs, and she would make little necklaces out of them and stuff like that. Well, apparently when she got older, and it was time to go to college, she went to the United States to go to college, and she went for biology for 5 years. And when she came back, everything was changed. Everything was changed. They cut down the fig tree, like big ag kind of took over, and they were like, instead of people using the land to grow their own food, it was like big agriculture. It was like using it all to make money. Like they didn't really care about the land. It was just to make money. Whereas when people care for the land and they grow their own stuff, it's like they're caring for the land, and they give to the land, and the land gives back to them, instead of just like exploiting it. And basically it talks about the devastation it causes when big ag takes over. Droughts start to happen. The greenery starts turning to dirt, which starts turning to dust, which starts turning to sand, and you have to go further to get your water. You have to go further to get your food. You actually have to go like to the market and get food. You end up spending more money, and apparently a lot of the women were like unhappy and sad, and this gal, Wangari Maathai, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but she didn't complain. She wanted to solve the problem. So she created this green belt movement, and she started taking the stuff into her own hands and started growing trees, and yeah, it was just like a really inspiring book. I really recommend it for kids. It just talks about, like I said, the devastation that big ag causes, and to the people. It's like big ag benefits and all the people suffer. Whereas when the people are taking care of the land and growing their own stuff, it's like that's beneficial for the people. So has a great lesson in it. It's based on a true story, this gal Wangari Maathai. So yeah, it has a great lesson, and I think it's a very, very good book for kids, to understand how when someone comes over and takes over everything and uses it just for money, that what kind of devastation that causes to the people when everything is focused more on money as opposed to the people and community and helping each other. What happens? Basically, this book kind of like, you know, lets you know that it's a lot better for the people when everything is not focused on money. So I really recommend it. Like I said, in the very end, there's an author's note, and it kind of talks about, you know, in 2004, Wangari Maathai was the first woman from Africa to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, okay? And this is for her work with the Green Belt movement, and apparently there's like hundreds of thousands of members in Africa, I think in Africa. So, and also there were a couple things where she like protested against the government because the government wanted to come in and do these things like against the forest or against these different, you know, community things. And so she went out with a bunch of people and they all protested the Green Belt movement, and they stopped the government from doing it. And a lot of people one time, or a lot of the members thought she was in danger of her life for protesting the government, so they would keep her in different houses and stuff like that. But it's a really good story, very inspiring. Shows people like, you know, what you need to do, how to stand up, and how to care for the earth, and focus more on love as opposed to money. Okay, so if you've never read it, Planting the Trees of Kenya, story of Wangari Maathai, check it out.